we talk about strength, we're not talking about an outer strength. We're talking about an inner strength. Now, when you think about inner strength, the word that is most important is the word conviction. Inner strength comes from convictions. Convictions are deeply held beliefs that we have. That we're going to discover is the secret to our inner strength. The stronger your conviction, the stronger you feel on the inside. Now, here's the big idea that I want you to take hold of. Where do convictions come from? How do we get these convictions? Convictions come from clarity. Let me say that again. Convictions come from clarity. The more you can grow in clarity, the more you are convicted or convinced about something, the stronger you feel about it. And remember, grow in strength, we grow in our courage and leadership ability. I'm an engineer. I was trained in engineering. That's why I need a formula to understand how this fits together and a roadmap for the way ahead. So here's principle number 2. Principle number 2 simply says this. If you grow in clarity, you will grow in inner strength. Grow in clarity and you grow in inner strength. Now, clarity is one of my favorite words. There's something magical about clarity. One of the roles that we have as leaders is continually to bring in clarity into different situations and circumstances. In fact, I heard a quote once from Andy Stanley, pastor of North Point Church in Atlanta. And he said, people would rather follow a leader of clarity than even a leader of character. I was shocked when I heard it, but the more I pondered it, the more I realized it's true. When a leader is clear in his leadership identity and values, people are drawn to leaders like that, their stature and their security. If a leader can bring clarity to vision, then people buy into it with a much greater level of enthusiasm. When a leader can bring clarity to values of the team, what happens is it introduces a much greater cohesiveness into the team. If a leader is clear in his communication, there's a much greater chance that people will buy in when they understand those expectations. When a leader can bring clarity to the boundaries of what's acceptable, what's not acceptable, actually what happens is there's a much greater level of ownership from the team. I remember hearing about an experiment that was done by a group of psychologists. And what they did is they went to a kindergarten and they took away the boundary fence around the playground. What they were wondering was, how will the kids respond to not having a boundary fence? Would the kids explore the garden and then cross into the streets and put themselves in danger? In fact, what they discovered is that the opposite happened. Once the boundary lines were taken away, the children, instead of going further, actually hung closer to the buildings. They stayed right up close to the edge of the building. Once they put the boundary fence back in place, the kids had the freedom and they spread out once again and played all the way up to the edge of the fences. In other words, people love clarity. When the clarity of the boundaries, clarity of the vision, clarity of the values, the more we bring clarity, the more freedom, conviction, and courage that it brings, not just to us, but to the people that we are leading. So remember, principle number 2, if we can grow clarity, we will be growing inner strength at the same time. So when we put those two principles together, remember, principle number 1, grow your strength and you'll grow your courage or confidence, which is needed to be able to lead. Principle number 2, if we can grow our clarity, we will grow that inner strength. Now, remember the 3 biggest fears that we spoke about. The fear of taking charge, all eyes on me. The fear of speaking in public and casting vision. And the fear of those awkward conversations. Now, imagine if instead of that feeling of weakness and dread, imagine if you went into each one of those situations with a much greater sense of clarity. Clarity in your values and identity as a leader. What would happen is your conviction would be stronger and you would step up in your leadership ability. If you went in with a greater sense of clarity to your vision, this is what the team is going to be doing, this is what our future looks like. The more clarity you had to your vision, the more you would step out in confidence. And if you could bring a clarity to the end goal, as I step into this awkward conversation, dealing with conflict, holding someone accountable, the more clarity I had in the end goal of this conversation, the more you'd be willing to step in and face that conversation. Now, the real focus of this course is going to be that goal number one. How do we develop a leadership, values, and identity clarity? Because that's the foundation. If we can bring clarity to your personal leadership, your values, and your identity, it'll enable you to step up. Why? Because clarity leads to strength. Strength leads to courage and confidence, and courage and confidence are what's needed to be able to lead well.